That's actually kind of crazy. Yeah, 10 years, the game is that old. I mean, yeah, it's actually pretty crazy when you think about it. It's kind of one of those like fantasy games that would usually never happen, you know, like Street Fighter versus Tekken, like Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter, like, you know, those type of conversations, right? Like, I was so excited to see how Capcom would translate like the Tekken characters into a Street Fighter realm.
I mean, I still talk about it to this very day. Like, honestly, kind of came out of nowhere, and I didn't really want to believe that's possible. But when I saw how the game engine that they were using, I was like, wait a minute. I saw Kazuya, I saw Nina, I saw Chun-Li Ryu. I was like, this kind of makes sense.
Cross Tekken is hands down my favorite fighting game, period. I don't care what game come out, that's my favorite one. Because I feel like that game had the best kind of expression. Everybody can play like anybody can play however they want. You didn't never look like the next person.
It made me thought about like CVS2, Capcom versus SNK2. I thought Capcom did such an amazing job bringing a lot of the SNK characters from like how KOF is with like Hop Jump City to more of like a Street Fighter fighting style. They did such a great job, right? So seeing that they're about to do that with Cross Tekken, I was really excited to see that as well too.
Cross Tekken was the first time I think that sort of began the journey of learning how frame data works. Street Fighter V demanded it. I had to know +2 here, throw range here, Oki set up this, knockdown does this much. Cross Tekken is kind of where I started that process of learning how to really develop safe jumps and like the joy of being curious about how things work and what you can do in what situation and putting things together. And it just made it really enjoyable. There's so much to figure out. I think there's still so much to figure out in that game.
I think that game was just so freeform and like what you can do that I used to spend hours just labbing stuff. And like I say, it's crazy looking back on it because I ain't no frame data, so I think I'll just winging it on what I feel.
Yeah, so back in the day, frame data was a myth. There's no such thing as frame data just because
we just use the word priority.
Yeah, priority. Because, you know, we didn't have all this nice technology compared to now where it's so easy to understand how to, you know, find out frame data so fast. So back in the day, this is more just like off a feel. So for Cross Tekken, what it really taught me, it taught me not to press buttons all the time. I need to wait for my turn. It should never always be my turn unless I'm hitting somebody. But if I'm blocking, I really just need to wait and just find the gap. And Cross Tekken taught me that a lot because now it taught me like I need to research these other characters so I know when they're negative, what other strings can they do afterwards, because that's another thing they introduced, because Tekken was like, you don't know like if it's a 2-string, a 3-string, a 4-string, like when it's going to end. So there was so many rules that Cross Tekken had that like it's so beneficial for fighting game player now to have.
It helped me teach me about like, you know, how to counter just different methods, right? Like, okay, what do I do how do I play somebody that's doing nothing, right? Because there's a lot of that in that game. How do I stop somebody who's aggressive? Because you had Tekken characters that would run over you if you didn't know what you were doing, right? It just gave me different looks. And once I felt like I could deal with all of that stuff in that game, I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I can do well in other games. And then I started to see myself improving. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm not bad at this, right?
For me, I probably didn't learn how to play neutral until like 2010. You know, that's kind of late, I guess you would say. But, you know, I was taught that firsthand by Alex Valle in Street Fighter 4. And, you know, ever since then, I'm like, oh, this is how it works. You know, it's pretty fun. But instead of just learning how to play neutral, I learned how to work around it and force my opponent not to play neutral. That's kind of like my strength, right? But in this game, like, neutral is so strong. And I felt like I had to learn the hard way, and it actually made me a lot better and strong in other games too, because learning how to play neutral properly in this game, it reflects everything else I've done. So I feel like this is a great training tool. I mean,
Cross Tekken's 10 years old, but there's still tournaments up to this day. I don't think there's ever anything called a dead game, as if you have two people playing a game, it's never a dead game.
Like finding the reason to play is really what people are trying to describe when they're thinking about dead games. Like, why are you playing this? Fun.
I
playing
like
it
that.
for fun.
Look at Street Fighter Turbo, right? Look at Alpha 3. Those guys are still playing it. Boss is still coming to America to play CVS 2. Like, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, it's good that they're releasing like Capcom Fighting Collection and, Fightcade is a thing, because people are now playing these games with rollback and it's getting other people into it. A game is only dead if a community stops playing. And as long as a community keeps playing, the game will be alive. But my hope is that Capcom will fix the issues on Steam so that the community can grow again. People don't want to jump through hoops to play, man. I mean, they just want to be able to log on and play.
When you have like really good community like leaders trying to like show off the game, it's always going to get some light, some recognition. Cycle Blue does a really good job of just kind of like keeping the community together and like pushing the game and showing off like, the matches and the content, and trying to have a side tournament at like almost every major tournament that he attends to. It's just, it's really like, honorable and so nice to see.
When Street Fighter Cross Tekken went the way it did, I knew that someone had to carry the torch or there'd be nothing. It wasn't until about 2017 there was any real migration to PC, because we saw the game for Windows Live, it's dead. And a lot of people just gave up after that. And it turns out, no, it didn't die. They just stopped updating it. And they showed me what to do to make it work on Windows 10 and 11. So for a long time, people played on PS3 and 360. And I would say people moved to PC when the Discord first formed, thanks to Salt Levels Max, 2017. And then as my name started to get bigger after I won Evo in 2017, people started coming back to the game, seeing there's competitiveness. As for the past 3 Evos, Esta won from 2014, 2016.
Esta takes the tournament with a 3.
And most assume if there's just one guy winning every year, it's not competitive. And then I pushed through and the perception changed. And I think that's also a big factor to how the game got such a big resurgence 2018, 2019, during the pandemic. You've seen the Combo Breaker 2019 views. That's a lot, 430,000 plus right now. That energized us something fierce. I did talk to people up front about what it would take to fix this so we can capitalize off all these views and start building that way. And I remember something Ono told me, and this energized me entering the pandemic. Could make me feel like I had a responsibility now to kind of keep things going. Ono told me that, I'm getting emotional here, that I'm a hero. He said that the Street Fighter community owes you a great debt. You're what the community needs. And he challenged me. Capcom will favor you if you make it a priority. He told me that there is nothing stopping Capcom license-wise from reviving Cross Tekken full stop. He said there are a bunch of characters that would have been DLC that are done that never got greenlit. Like it's on a server somewhere, and if Capcom wanted to spend the money to finish them, in whatever capacity that needed, they could have done it, but it's low priority. He uses this word a lot, low priority, low priority. And he said you have to make it a high priority. They will move if the numbers move. And that has pushed me, and that's pushed my community as well for the last 4 years. To everyone's credit, we've done our part on that end. We have moved the numbers. Whatever they do now, hopefully sooner rather than later, but I can say we have unfinished business. For Cross Tekken, I will leave the doors open for those who want to play it, but I do think it's time for me to look for other people to run it, because now that other responsibilities are coming on my doorstep, now the path I pay for Street Fighter Cross Tekken is a path that can be used to help other games as well. So I think it is my responsibility to give up some responsibility for Cross Tekken. I'll still be that guy, obviously. Like anyone who runs it, I will support them as much as I can if I see that same passion that the community expects. And I think that's going to be what decides the future for Cross Tech and the passion of the community beyond just me.